Okay, so I've been talking about diarrhea, diarrheal disease, basically, right? So, few things regarding diarrheal disease is that common disease, multiple causative organisms, and then ultimate outcome is there is dehydration because of excessive fluid loss, right? So that dehydration is what we want to tackle and we want to manage. So the problem is with diarrhea is that whatever be the cause, whatever be the type, whatever be the nature of diarrhea, and whatever be the death occurs and the morbidity rate, mortality rate of diarrhea is very, very high. And to tackle this diarrhea, what happened was multiple modalities was used. Multiple modalities was used, and probably the best modality is to tackle dehydration. Okay, so globally, the thought is that if we are able to tackle dehydration, we will be able to tackle diarrhea. The morbidity will be able to reduce the burden of diarrhea, right? Sorry, reduce the effect of diarrhea. So that is how things have been progressing, and that is also so I discussed about general epidemiology of diarrhea and the types of the diarrheal diseases, and then I moved towards sorry, just wait a minute. Then after the types of diarrhea, I moved towards understanding about what do we call this? Um, each diarrheal disease, cause-wise, each one a little bit, and then I asked you all to study by yourself few of them, and then I discussed about cholera in detail, a little bit history about cholera, a little bit more about cholera, and now today I will my class I'll be primarily focusing on the management aspect, okay, prevention and management aspect. So that will be my class for today. So again, it will be a combination for all types of diarrhea. It will be a common thing. So that is how we are going to move. And one small note before I start the class is today is Tuesday, 1st June. So today evening at around 8 o'clock, you all will be getting today 8 o'clock. No, yeah, today sometime in the evening, you all will be getting email in your institutional email ID, and they'll be in your via you have to go to your Google Classroom, and then there'll be a there will be a quiz on diarrheal disease. You can take your time, you can go through it, and then please uh, submit that by tomorrow evening. So you've got 24 hours. I'll give you 24 hours to finish off that quiz. There'll be around 10 to 15 questions. Let's see, 10, I think, or I may have already finished off with 10. I might add a few, all MCQ based. And I've tried to explain the answers as well a little bit over there. And you all will be graded there and there, and then I'll be getting the information. Those who, I'll be removing that questionnaire after you finish, after the time is over, I'll be removing those questionnaires. So you all can just go in there, give the answers, and then finish it off. Today's homework, today's assignment will be purely MCQ based. Next time I'll be giving some other written type or something that you all have to type or something like that. In that round also I might be giving. Let's see how things go. Okay. So you be aware. 108 of you all are here. Around 10, 12 of you all are not here. So CR, you can inform the class as well. Probably by tonight, by 8 o'clock, you all will be receiving a email having the questions. Okay, so you all will have to go. It's a Google form based questionnaire, so you just have to tick and submit. Don't forget to submit, of course. Once you submit, you all will you all can see your response. You all can see your other friends' general response as well. What tendency, what your mistakes they have done now, all those things also you all have seen. You all can see. Then you all can assess your mark, and then after that, Even there is feedback for the questions. Majority of the questions will have feedback why that answer is correct or why that answer is wrong and all. Okay, so my basic understanding is you all should be thorough with it. Those are all simple questions. In that way I've done. Okay, so let me start today's class. So by today evening, finish one reading of diarrheal disease once again, so that you all are ready for the test tomorrow. Whenever you all can give tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, whenever you give. But by tomorrow, I'll set a time. Most likely tomorrow 5 p.m. I'll end the quiz time. Deadline will be most likely tomorrow 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Okay, so that is how I'm going to go. Okay, so I'm recording the class. Let the recording begin, and then I'll proceed. Okay. So we were discussing about diarrheal disease, and we discussed a lot of things. Like I said earlier, let me just go to our today's slide. I think anything more left to cover in our old topic, previous two classes topic. Anything? If there is anything to tell, otherwise I'll begin with today's class. Okay, I'll start from control of diarrheal disease. Okay, so basically control of one thing for the question answer, I've given the link in the chat room. You all can go to that chat room and then you all can use it as well. Okay, so you all can use that link to raise any questions or any queries if you have. Okay, so control of diarrheal disease. Now, see, we understood that diarrhea is caused by multiple etiology. Multiple causes are there. Multiple types of diarrhea are there. But we understood that managing diarrhea is all about managing dehydration, because ultimately diarrhea, majority of them are self-limiting. Very few require antibiotic treatment or specific treatment, let's say chemotherapy. And when we start to treat these kind of diseases, when we start to prevent this kind of disease, it was thought that preventing the disease is a bit difficult task. Just imagine the load: 1.7 billion, 1.8 billion episodes of diarrheal outbreak, diarrhea globally. That's a very, very huge number. Okay, and we found that majority of them are non-killing, not non-harming, doesn't harm a lot. Okay, so rather than going into specific treatment, it is thought that if we are able to manage dehydration, majority of the portion will go down. And if you look at the causes of diarrhea, it's mostly fecal-oral, right? So fecal-oral, if we are able to sanitation, yeah. So that ground, WHO devised these four methods, and among the four, three are long-term and one is short-term. Short-term is treatment of the diarrhea, and these three long-term, the other larger one, preventive strategies. Okay, general preventive things that are done to treat. Okay, so I'll be going stepwise in each of them, and in oral rehydration solution, oral rehydration therapy, I'll be discussing a lot about ORS. Okay, if you've got any questions and all, do stop me in between. And if by chance my internet goes off and I don't happen to get that information, do tell me, because sometimes that happens. Last time also I missed out for a while. If there is, then Amit, please call me immediately. Okay. Okay. So diarrheal disease control. So basically, we want to reduce the number of load and we want to reduce the effect of it as well. Okay. So our control is thought in, like I said, two broad headings: short term and long term. Short term is short term is about appropriate clinical management. That means you have to treat the disease that is happening right now. Long term is all about better MCS, preventive strategies, and preventing diarrheal epidemics and all those things. Okay. So short term is appropriate clinical management, like I said earlier. So appropriate clinical management, how do we do is, these are the 6 headings that we do. We might not do all in all patients, but these are the 6 things that is there as an option to act. Okay, first is oral rehydration therapy, rehydration via oral route, intravenous therapy, rehydration via intravenous route, maintenance therapy. The deficit is recovered. Now you want to maintain the ongoing loss. Appropriate feeding besides fluid, what else? Chemotherapy, any other drugs, and something called zinc. Okay, so these 6 things are done. All might not be necessary in all, but at least some of them are done in all kind of diarrhea to prevent dehydration basically, or to control dehydration, or to recover from dehydration. Okay, and in chemotherapy we will be treating the cause, of course. So basically oral rehydration therapy is the most effective and accepted strategy to manage a case of diarrhea regardless of the etiology. Okay, regardless of the etiology, we are mostly focusing on one thing, that is ORS. Why? Because we all know, I've been repeating it again and again, irrespective of the cause, ultimate outcome is dehydration. That happens because of multiple episodes of diarrhea, right? So if we are having diarrhea, number one thing, there is fluid loss, what we know. Number two, what we know is there is majority of this diarrhea are self-limiting, recovery will be there. So if we prevent dehydration, things will go good. So oral dehydration is one of the best method and can be initiated quickly. Okay, so in that round, what oral dehydration, what it does is basically oral glucose enhances intestinal absorption of salt and water, and while that salt and water is absorbed, correction of electrolyte, that basically salt and water is done. Okay, so glucose is also added. So basically we give glucose, salt and water, 3 things. Glucose helps in enhancing the absorption, and once that absorption is done efficiently, certain volume of oral fluid is given, then that loss will be corrected. Okay, that is the general idea. So at present, since 2004, we are using the WHO new formula, or it's called reduced osmolarity ORS, also reduced osmolarity ORS. Since 2004, WHO, UNICEF also, UNICEF is a big player in this. WHO, UNICEF reduced osmolarity ORS solution, it's often called in that way. And it started from India and it's gone globally. Since 2004, we've been using the same solution. Okay. At our times, we were asked about compare between old and new. What is the WHO ORS solution and what is the reduced osmolarity ORS solution? There are a lot of questions regarding that. These days, I didn't see that kind of questions. It's already 16 years, so there's no point asking comparing between two. Basically, just remember osmolarity of that solution was reduced. Why the osmolarity of the solution was reduced? I think you all can find it out by yourself. That is homework for you all to discuss by yourselves and find out by yourself. Okay, because some things if you study, that's not relevant academically right now. You all can definitely find it out. So at present, it is this reduced osmolarity. What it is doing is it is not only effectively preventing dehydration or treating dehydration, but it's also reducing the stool output. So basically, the loss is also reduced. So that is how it is done. If it is one most important thing because of this ORS that we are using right now, oral rehydration solution, oral rehydration therapy, whatever it is called, it's the same thing. Okay? So best thing that is happening right now is that it not only reduces the cost, but also makes treatment possible at household level. Okay, one does not need to go to the hospital or any health institution to be treated for dehydration of minimal level, mild, moderate type. Okay, a child usual diet not to be reduced or withheld. Nutrition should be okay. Some mistake obvious. Nutrition should be taken care of so that recovery is prompt. Basically, any disease, there's no such thing as keeping nil oral. Okay, most of the disease we want to eat. We recommend eating, and eating should be done normal diet. Why? Because recovery will be good in that way. So that is well thought. So oral rehydration can be used as a management of diarrhea if all etiology in all countries and in patients of all age. That's the most important thing. Basically, the aim is to prevent dehydration and reduce mortality. Okay, prevent dehydration or recover from dehydration and prevent dehydration, and ultimately reduce mortality. You all got the point. So what happens is, I'll finish the slide. So this is the reduced osmolarity ORS. It has got 1, 2, 3, 4, compounds: sodium chloride, glucose, anhydrous glucose, potassium chloride, and trisodium citrate. These are the four compounds that are there, and it's in these composition. So roughly around 20.5 grams of solid salt and glucose is there, solid mass is there. This 20.5 grams has to be added in a 1 liter of water, and it has to be mixed. That ultimate 1 liter solution has got these osmolarity of individual component, and total osmolarity is 245. Previously it was somewhere around 311 or 313, I forgot, something 300 something. It has been reduced to around 245, and 245 osmolarity is very much optimal and effective to the maximum level. Okay, why osmolarity was reduced? What is the role of osmolarity? I think if you remember your physiology, GIT physiology, then most of the things will be clear. If not, go back to your Guyton and Gannon and then read through it. Okay. So what happens is that when a person has got diarrhea, there is loss of fluid, right? Fluid loss is usually via stool, and sometimes diarrhea is associated with vomiting, and then there is vomiting as well. So fluid loss via vomitus as well. So two things will reduce the body fluid level. Okay. So once that fluid level is reduced, uh, dehydration occurs. Okay, that dehydration occurs in multiple stages. Some classify it as mild, moderate, severe. In Nepal, we use IMCI. I think you all are aware of IMCI, that has been discussed, I think. But IMCI labels dehydration as no dehydration, some dehydration, and severe dehydration. So there are various classifications. Basically, there is a grade of dehydration. Okay, dehydration increases. So what we want to do is we want to, number one, bring back that loss. Whatever loss was there, we want to bring it back to normalcy so that uh, dehydration is corrected. Number one, okay, correction of dehydration. But correction alone is not sufficient. Why? Because um, there is ongoing loss. Okay, there is evaporation, there is urine production, there is diarrhea ongoing, right, during the time of reduction, during the time of dehydration as well. So that ongoing loss also has to be maintained. So two things has to be done. Number one, whatever fluid level was there, whatever has gone down, you want to bring that up to normal, and whatever is loss is happening right now, you want to maintain it. So two things has to be done: deficit and maintenance. Okay, so for that, how we proceed is we look for the dehydration assessment. We want to label what kind of dehydration is there. So basically, we look for forget about these things right now. We look for weight loss, but difficult. We don't really know the previous weight. So what we look is for appearance. How does the child look? Usually, see, whenever we talk about diarrhea, we usually think about child, because majority of the cases of diarrhea is under 5 year olds, right? So we are thinking that line. So we look for the child, or we look for the case, and we look at the capillary filling, nail beds. We look at the nail beds, how quickly it returns and all. We look at the pulse. In pulse, we look for the rate of pulse and the volume of pulse. Two things we look for. Respiration, how fast and how deep is it? Normal. Next thing we look for is blood pressure, whether there is decrease in blood pressure or orthostatic hypotension is there or normal. And the next is we look for mucous membrane, eyes, inside the lips, in the buccal cavity. We look for mucous membrane to look for whether it's moist, dry or not. Next is we look for tears in the child. The child might be crying but no tears. That can be sign of severe dehydration. Next thing we look for in the eyes, we look for whether it's sunken or not. Normally, it's hard to appreciate. We might ask the mother for it. Acha gadeko cha? Has the eyes gone back? Is it deep? We like to look for that. Pinched skin. Next is we like to check the springiness of the skin. Normally, we do this in the stomach, and we don't pinch it. We just press it. Okay. So we just use our thumb and this lateral side of the index finger, and then what we do is we pinch the skin fold. We take the skin fold and then we pull it little bit. If you pull, we look for the spring and just see over here, it goes immediately back, right? It goes immediately back. In a child with dehydration, it will go slowly. the more slow it goes, or there is a tenting thing, then it is more dehydrated. In a very small child, we look for the fontanel. Fontanel, there are two fontanels. We look for the shape of the fontanel. Is it sunken or slightly sunken or normal? And next thing is urine. Urine, what is the urine? We like to look at that as well. So depending upon these multiple around 10, 12 assessment categories, we label the child as either having mild, moderate, or severe classification. IMCI labels it is in a different way. So you don't have to remember this one. Think about the IMCI one only, okay? I've purposefully given this one because it's also another thing that I wanted you all to share with you guys. But like our Park book has given only mild and severe. There is no moderate. IMCI is no, some, and severe. Dehydration, no dehydration, some dehydration, and moderate dehydration. So there are multiple ways. But basically, general thing is up to 5% fluid weight loss, more than 10% fluid weight loss. Appearance, the more dehydrated the child is, more lethargic and severe, sick looking. Capillary refill, it's more delayed in more fluid loss or more dehydration. Pulse rate goes up, not down. Okay, rate goes up. Respiration rate goes up. Blood pressure will go down. Blood pressure will be going down. Mucous membrane will be going dry. Tears will be going dry. Eyes will be going down. Shrunken. Skin pinch will be very slow. Fontanel will be very deep. And urine output will be going down and down. So that is what happens from mild, moderate to severe. Okay, that is the general trend. Some few things happen fast. Most of the thing will go down. Okay, remember this. We might ask randomly what happens to skin pinch, what happens to fontanel. That is generally we ask that in Viva as well. So think about that as well. So once you assess dehydration, what we can also do is when there is dehydration, there is water deficit. There's another way to estimate. Now you want to give the fluid, right? So there is dehydration. According to the type, we can manage. And if it's mild, moderate, we can go for oral only. If it is severe, we might need intravenous. That is the most important thing. Okay, if it's severe, if the child is in shock, if it's severe, then go for intravenous. Mild, moderate, or no and some. What we, according to IMCI, it's no and some. What we do is we go for oral first. Okay, so how much to give? So oral dehydration, how much to give is first we have to calculate roughly what is the loss, how much has been lost. So how will you know how much loss is there? So what we do is there is roughly around 50 to 100 ml per kg body. That is the deficit. That is what is normally estimated. Or what we can do is, depending upon age and weight, we can estimate the ORS required. Okay. So for example, a 4-month child will require somewhere around 200 to 400 ml of ORS. 4-month child. Okay. How to give, I'll talk in a while. 4-month child will have, say somebody is got around 5 kg, around 400 ml is enough. Someone is from 5 to 8 kg, 400 to 600 ml is enough. Okay. That is one. So we prefer for the weight. Measure the weight. Even if it's 10% lost, we measure the weight. We calculate the estimated amount and then we give. If we don't know the weight, we go for age. Okay. And then even if that is not there or you want to calculate more, then whatever is the weight, multiply by 75. That is the normal appropriate amount of ORS required. So multiple things are there. The most scientific one is this one. Okay, weight and ORS is the most scientific one. If you don't have that, age, or you can multiply age into weight into 75. That is the most accurate one. Okay, so these are the multiple ways you know how much to give. Now I'll tell you an interesting story. Last time we had, I don't know, you might be getting the same PBL as well. We had a PBL session on diarrheal disease, and one of your seniors discussed, I don't know if, yeah, one of your seniors, the loss was around this much was required. 600 to 800 ml was required according to the child's age and all. They calculated that in the book. One of the Viva teacher asked, what is the required amount of ORS for a child? And rather than saying it depends on the weight and age, it depends upon the severity of the dehydration, rather than saying all that, the person who gave the Viva, your seniors, what they did was directly they said, we have to give 600 to 800 ml. And then the Viva, the teacher asked, you know how to make ORS? And he said, yes. He or she, I don't remember. They said, yes. And then the Viva, the teacher asked, how to make ORS? Now, the intelligent fellow said that we have to make ORS in 600 to 800 ml fluid. Is that correct? Do we make ORS in 600 to 800 ml fluid?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. What we do is we make the ORS in 1 liter solution, irrespective of weight, age, cause, country, whatever it is, we make that ORS. The standard ORS. Okay, there are certain countries where ORS are found in for 200 ml water also as well. Small sachets of for 200 ml is also there, but generally it's for 1 liter, right? So make the ORS in 1 liter. 20.5 grams, mix it in 1 liter, make the solution. That solution has to be given to the child. How much? It depends upon the weight and age. Okay, if the weight and age calculates somewhere around 800, you give only 800 ml out of that 1000 ml. You don't have to make 800 ml and give it all. You don't give all. Okay, that is number one thing. First thing is that. Second thing is that leftover you can give it later on. This initial what you have calculated right now in your slide that you see right now, this is for the dehydration part, deficit part. Okay, deficit part. Is that clear? What we are doing, we are making the ORS in 1 liter. We are using certain amount being weight into 75, or if you don't know the weight, whatever it is, you do it in your age wise, and then you calculate the amount, say 700 ml. So you give 700 for the deficit. Okay, whatever has already occurred, you give for that. Is that clear? Is it clear? You don't make 700 ml fluid. Okay, you don't make 600 ml fluid. You make 1 liter and you give only certain amount, and leftover you don't throw it away. You give it for the maintenance therapy. You come to maintenance therapy in a while. So this is how you do the rehydration. The general rule for oral rehydration therapy is that give ORS as much as the patient can drink. Reassessing dehydration status repeatedly. 2 things that you have to do. Even if you calculate 600 ml and the person consumes 2 liters, say, there is no harm. There is no harm. A body will not take excess amount of fluid. It will all go away in urine. If it's less, then there is harm. So that's why you need to reassess the dehydration repeatedly. Now, what happens is, say the person is having diarrhea. You're giving oral fluid. What if that input is not matching the output? If that is not matching, what will happen is that there will be more dehydration and continuously there will be dehydration. Of course, the rate of dehydration will slow down, but there will be dehydration. So you might be in a false assurance that if you give ORS, everything will be, even if there is loss, no problem, that will be recovered. No, that's not the thing. You need to repeatedly reassess the dehydration status so that you're assured that the deficit is being recovered. It's not just maintaining in a low status. Okay, that is what the number one thing you have to do. So give them how much they want, at least that much, at least the one that you calculated in the previous slide, at least that much, but how much ever they want, they can consume. Even if there is fluid loss, you have to continually give, but for that you have to assess the dehydration status. For small children, mothers should be taught something. Okay, what they have to teach is a small child cannot drink all in a while. Okay, less than 2-year-old, what we ask is repeatedly, continuously feeding 1 to 2 minutes, every few minutes, 1 teaspoon you can continually give. Older children, give it in cups. If there is passes of stool for less than 2-year-old, around 75, 80, 100 ml. For up to 2 to 10-year-old, we give around 200 ml. Older ones, you go and pass the stool, add up. Okay. Now we don't really measure our stool if we are having diarrhea, but what we do is we estimate some loss, and then that loss we have to drink more. Now, why do we have to drink more than the loss? Let's assume that there is already a deficit has been recovered. Now you want to continually give, yeah, the child is still having, or the, say, the adult is still having diarrhea. Now you want to give, you have to give fluid. Now you need to give more fluid than what there is loss. Why? Got my question? Why? किन होला? किरण अवल, किरण, you got my question? Fluid धेरै, because there will be loss again. Product, no, not loss again. मेरो क्वेसन बुझ्यो कि बुझेन? फ्लुइड लस भइरहेछ, जति भयो त्यति नै खाऊ भने होइन कि जति भयो त्योभन्दा धेरै खाऊ भन्नुपर्छ अरे। वाइ? किरण, there is water loss from other mechanism, दीक्षाले भने। ओके ओके, but more to it. Whole cannot be absorbed. Very good, Yogendra. General physiology. Remember your physiology. The amount of fluid that you drink, does it all enter the intravascular component or intercellular component? Every drop of fluid that we consume, is it all absorbed by the body? No, only certain amount is absorbed. Okay, certain amount is not absorbed. So certain fraction is not absorbed. To make sure that fraction is corrected, we drink more water than the loss. Okay, and of course, like you all said, there might be some loss, ongoing loss besides diarrhea, so we have to make sure of that as well. Next thing that you would like to do is, for older ones, as much as possible. Now, what will happen if there is vomiting? What we do is wait for 10 minutes. Let the gut recover. Okay, let the gut recover and wait for about 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, you can begin feed. And there is no harm in feeding more than the estimated amount. Most important thing. Few things about ORS, I think you all know. It should be consumed within 24 hours. It should be made with clean water. It's written there, boil the water, cool it down, and then use the water instead. Why? Because they would make sure that the water itself is not contaminated. Okay, we don't want contaminated water to be consumed. That is one thing. So and it's not necessary to have it in a boiling water. Boiling and cooling for making it free from bacteria. Okay, that is what we want. Now, certain countries have got various guidelines saying that, okay, if ORS is not available, you might use something else. And there's something else: 1 teaspoon salt, 6 teaspoons sugar, and 1 liter of water that you can do. Or 2 teaspoon salt, 1 pinch of, teaspoon sugar, 1 pinch of salt with 1 liter, 1 glass of water is also enough. Basically, you want to consume all three. If it is exact, the osmolarity will be so good, the ORS that we consume, packet ORS, what will happen is that the absorption will be wonderful. Okay, the amount that is absorbed will be really good. The capacity, the amount that is absorbed will be good. If this osmolarity is up and down, the absorbed capacity will go down. Not all will be absorbed. Okay, even IV fluids, whatever is given in the fluid is not consumed by the, is not taken up by the cells. It's the cells that are in loss, right? The fluid is given from the cells, basically, right? So whatever is given in the fluid, some of it will be lost. Even if you give it directly into the IV line, it's there, right? That is how our body functions. Other things that we can give is rice water. The semi-cooked rice has got the water. If you use that water, that you can use coconut, green coconut, tender coconut, yogurt, soup, very light wheat tea, etc. The various things are given. Basically, we want to give them electrolyte. That is the most important. Okay, at least one thing you have to remember: whatever you give salted fluid. At least one fluid should be salted. At least 3 grams a day of salt. Nepali gaउँघरमा we consume dalko pani. Right? That is a wonderful electrolyte, right? It has got some taste, and then there is electrolyte. Avoid sweetened fluids. Excessive sweet is also not good, so you should avoid that. And there is no salt in sweetened fluid. If you consume Coke and Fanta, that's not, there's just water and it's not absorbed by the body. There's no electrolyte, right? We need electrolyte. That is being lost. There is an understanding that soda or Sprite and all these also help in managing the gut, but that does not recovers the dehydration, but it helps that carbonation. So bicarbonate helps in the gut motility and all. There is a beneficial effect, but not for dehydration. Okay. Again, I repeat over here, regular diet should be continued. So that is about the oral rehydration prevention. Next part is intravenous rehydration. Now, intravenous is reserved for the initial stage of severe dehydration. Okay. Whenever a child or the person is labeled as having severe dehydration, once that level is there, you give them intravenous fluid. Once the severe dehydration level is off or recovery is there, we switch back to oral. Okay. Intravenous is reserved only for severe dehydration. That is, if you correct, only for the initial stage of severe dehydration. Two circumstances might come. A child might come with severe dehydration. You start off with IV fluid and then you wait for a while. Dehydration is recovered and then you send the person for switch the person to oral. Right. Number one. Number two, what happened is the child might come in mild, moderate, or no dehydration, and you ask for oral, or you ask for the consumption of oral. The input might not be sufficient as output, might not be there. The ongoing loss might be more and more and more. And one, I said earlier that you have to reassess continuously for ORS as well. So during that process of reassessment, if you find there is severe dehydration, of course, because input was not enough to replenish that loss or the replace the control the ongoing loss, the child might go into dehydration later, right? So even after you check, the patient might go into severe dehydration. So at that time, you might label it as severe dehydration, and then you might have to give intravenous at that time also. But we reserve intravenous only for the initial stage, because we know after a few hours, if we get fluid appropriately, that recovery will be done. Okay. So ringer acid is the best solution. If you don't have, you can use other fluids as well. Recommended is around 100 ml per kg body weight. And normally what we do is, if the child is less than 12 months, we give it a bit slow. In 6 hours, we try to give it first 30 ml per kg, first 30 ml per kg in 1 hour, remaining 70 ml per kg in 5 hours. So basically what you do is we measure the weight, we calculate the total amount required, and that total amount 30% in 1 hour, remaining 70% in 5 hours. If the child is more than 1 year old, non-infants, older than infants, first 30% in 30 minutes, quickly we give, and then remaining 70% we try to give it in 2.5 hours. Of course, we have to repeatedly check the dehydration status, and we have to make sure that we are replenishing the loss, ongoing loss. So once you do that, recovery will be there, and we'll have to maintain now. So maintenance therapy has to be continued. So maintenance therapy, we switch back to oral fluid. Now the deficit has been corrected. Once the deficit has been corrected, switch back to maintenance. That previous slide over here, you had after every stool for less than 2-year-old, 50 to 100 ml, and for 2 to 10-year-old, 100 to 200 ml. This is because maintenance. Okay, that is for basically for maintenance. So initiated after the dehydration is absent. So whatever level of dehydration was there, we can go for maintenance and drink as much as possible till thirst is satisfied. General principle is oral intake should be equal to continuing stool loss at least. Okay, so how much we prefer is if it's mild diarrhea. Now we try to label what is the loss happening right now. Once you've recovered from the deficit, we try to label the diarrhea. There are two labels, mild and severe. Mild is not more than 1 stool every 2 hours or longer. Less than 5 ml per stool per less than 5 ml stool per kg per hour. Very hard to calculate. Basically, just go for the number. Less than 1 stool every 2 hours. If it is there, then stick with 100 ml per kg till diarrhea stops. 5 days of diarrhea, 100 ml per kg per day. The child is 5 kg per day, 500 ml. That is enough. For adults like us, 60 kg, calculate the loss, that much amount of fluid that you'll have to do. If the diarrhea is more than 1 stool every 2 hours, that is the ongoing thing, then replace stool volume. Whatever is the loss, try to drink, that is around 100 to 200 ml per stool. or at least 10 to 15 ml per kg body weight per hour. Okay, so these are a few numbers. First number, now I'll just recap the numbers. First number, I think, as far as I remember, is deficit is 50 to 100. You stick for ORS, stick for 75 ml per kg. Okay, first number. Second number is for IV. For IV, we stick for 100 ml per kg, 30%, 70%, less than 1 year old, uh, 1 hour, 5 hour, 30%, 70%. If it's more than 1 year old, half an hour, 2.5 hours. So we finish it in either 6 hours or 3 hours. Maintenance therapy, we assess the diarrhea level. If it's two diarrhea, one episode of stool passes per 2 hours, 100 ml per kg till there is diarrhea for X many days. If there is more than one stool every 2 hours, then we go for at least 10 to 15 ml per kg body weight per hour. Okay, these are a few numbers. Now, these numbers might not look that important, but trust me, these are very, very important numbers. Very commonly, you will have cases of diarrhea. By you'll have case, I mean you'll see patients with diarrhea. And once you see patient with diarrhea, you'll have to recommend kati khane. First question is, you'll just see the eyes and all. Okay, no dehydration la. ORS khanu hai, Jeevanjal khanu bhanera pathaidincha. First question they'll ask is how much. Now you'll have to remember for the deficit and for the ongoing loss. Okay, so estimate it according to this. These are very important numbers. You'll have to remember always. Now, besides ORS, for appropriate clinical management, what we also like to do is appropriate feeding. Previously, there was a very big misconception of rest of gut. Diarrhea, something's wrong with your tummy, don't eat anything. But that is a very wrong thing. Normal food intake should be promoted as soon as the sick is able to eat. Of course, once they are lethargic or in shock, they can't eat. As time you only give fluid. But once that has been recovered, you go for whatever they want take whatever they want to eat. You have to make sure that they eat. Okay, we go for that therapy. And then now normal food for exclusively breastfed infants. Breast milk alone can treat sick with little or no dehydration. So for under 6-month child, we don't really recommend ORS also. But if there is severe dehydration or there is mild dehydration and all, we definitely will recommend. That is the only time. Otherwise, go for breastfeeding only. Okay, breastfeeding should continue with oral solution for moderate severe dehydrated infants. Okay, this is it for appropriate feeding. Basically, eat whatever you want. Next is chemotherapy. Now, unnecessary prescription does harm, so we would like to prescribe no drugs for diarrhea. Few episodes of diarrhea, don't worry at all. Don't give any drugs. That is the best thing. But if it's bloody diarrhea, if the cause of diarrhea is salmonella, or if it's cholera. Now see these three things over here. Salmonella is hard to distinguish, but Shigella, bloody diarrhea, cholera, rice watery, multiple episodes, very, very severe suddenly. So you know that the loss is very, very much. So what you do is, just give me a minute. So you know the loss is very, very much. So what you do is, see over here, two things are here. Shigella, blood, cholera, the fluid loss is so much you can estimate, yes, it is cholera, right? So for two things, very distinguishable, we go for what do you call antibiotic. Salmonella a bit difficult in our part of the world, very difficult to estimate salmonella. We need culture and all, so we miss out on this. So, but basically, we don't go for antibiotics. Okay, and what antibiotics? It depends on the thing. We will not focus that much. Next, last point for zinc supplementation is last point for appropriate clinical management is zinc supplementation. So zinc supplementation, by that what we mean is we ask the child to consume zinc tablets. Okay, what that zinc tablet does, it was not done previously. Very recently, this has been introduced, and it has wonderfully worked. Okay, what happens is that zinc does a few things. Number one, it reduces the diarrheal duration and the severity at present status. It will reduce. Okay, it curtails the harmful effect. Okay, whatever harm is happening, that episode, number of episode, or the severity, amount of loss per episode, that will go down because of zinc. Number two, what zinc does is, for the next few months, at least 2-3 months, it will render the body such that diarrhea might not occur. Okay, that is the general thing that happens. And how much? What is the dose for infants less than 6 months? We give 10 to 14 days. We prescribe. Is the infant less than 6 months, 10 mg. Infant, a child more than 6 months, 20 mg. Okay. Please remember, very important one for your Viva, very important one for your spotters and all. So there is one. What we do is, one file of zinc is given to the child. If it's less than 6 months, half a tablet per day. If it's more, one full tablet. It's 20 mg zinc tablet comes. Okay. Now this is about the short-term management. Now for the long-term management, we are more focusing on preventing. Okay. So preventing aspect, what we do is, number one, maternal, better MCS practice, maternal child health practice. So it's very important that mothers nutrition is also very important for the child. Okay, so prenatal care will reduce low birth weight. See how long back we have to go to make sure the child, 6 month, 1 year, 2 year old child does not get the repeated diarrheal episode. We have to take care of the child. We have to take care 3 years ago. For the 2 year old child, we might have to take care 3 years ago. That is when the child was just conceived. At that time, we have to take care. Prenatal care will reduce low birth weight. Low birth weight is very important for any kind of infection. Okay. Postnatal, for breast milk quality, that is two things. Okay. So maternal nutrition is very, very important. Next is child nutrition, promoting breastfeeding and appropriate weaning and supplementary feeding, and then vitamin A supplementation. These four things will help child be well nourished. Everything will be good. That fighting capability will be very high, and then the diarrheal episode might be fought off easily. Okay, we know most of it is asymptomatic. So if everything is good, asymptomatic might happen. That is one. Beta MCH, mother and child both we want to focus. Next long-term strategy is sanitation. We know that diarrheal disease is mostly caused by poor sanitary habits. So improve water supply capability, excreta disposal, domestic and food hygiene. We want to improve in all aspects. Supply clean water near home. Hygiene measures should be followed to keep the water, store the water, drink the water, everything. Hand washing before preparing food, eating, feeding a child, and after defecation, cleaning a child and disposing child. And washing, another important thing. Clean functioning of latrine, clean functioning latrine, and exclusion disposal properly away from the water supply. So the basic hygiene, water sanitation things is what we'd like to focus, because we know fecal-oral transmission. Okay, for preventive strategy, sanitation. Preventive strategy, another one is health education. Now you want to teach people about general health thing. Just imagine 2020, the world had, Western world was regarded clean, sanitary. They forgot about hand hygiene and all. 2020, we are teaching about hand washing, general etiquette, right? Sanitary etiquette we are teaching. The disease dynamics changes so much, right? So these are basic things. Although it might look very basic, we might assume that anybody knows that clean water is important, but no, they don't know. You have to repeat the education. You have to teach it might be for the first time. So what we include is environmental sanitation, like what we did previously. We have to teach about breastfeeding practice. We have to teach about improved weaning practice. We have to teach about clean water practice. We have to teach about water hygiene, use of latrine, and the disposal of the stool, and all we have to teach. So basic things which we might overlook, which we city dwellers might overlook. These are very important ones. Okay, you have to remember this. Next preventive strategy is immunization. So immunization, what we want is measles has got a big role for diarrhea. What it does is measles, once a child gets measles, immunity will be so reduced and they might be malnutrition that causes diarrhea. The immunity will be so down, they might cause diarrhea. So we want to make sure the child does not have measles. So measles vaccination is very important. Another vaccination is for the virus itself, for diarrheal disease cause itself, rotavirus vaccine. Okay, so there are multiple rotaviruses there, but two are available. Both are oral, monovalent, 2 dose, 4 months, and another one is pentavalent bovine, and again this is in 3 dose. Vaccination should not be given for child more than 2 months, 12 months, because most of the diarrheal episode will occur before the first year of life. Okay, so it's not relevant. So at present, rotavirus is there in our schedule, but we don't really use. We have not started it. Procurement is a big problem, so we have not started it. And even if we do, we don't start, not a big deal. But mind you, rotavirus has reduced diarrheal episodes and it has reduced the death because of diarrhea by a huge number globally. Okay, almost 6-7 lakh children have we've avoided globally with minimal rotavirus giving. We have not started rotavirus globally. Very few countries give rotavirus. And at present, it's estimated that around 6 or 700,000 death has been avoided. That's a big number. So just imagine the number of episodes of diarrhea. Okay, that will be exponentially high, right? Only a few people die. So we'll be able to reduce big number of death because of rotavirus vaccine. So it is recommended, although it protects only a few people, only a small fraction, children, 25% is rotaviral diarrhea. That is the only portion that is stopped, but still we like to what do you call, we'd like to give this. Okay, that is the general thing. Just remember that. Okay, giving rotavirus, even if it is the cause, the rotavirus is cause for a small fraction of diarrhea, only for children, only for small children, and it doesn't really work really wonderfully well, but still it reduces the death. That is substantially high number. Okay. Next thing is fly control. We know diarrhea is caused by, transmitted by flies and all, housefly and all. They play a big role in stopping over the stool, getting the disease, putting it in the food. So that chain we have to break. So those are the things. Next thing, if you see over here, I'll just go back to that slide. Next thing that I have not put, but it's there, is preventing diarrheal epidemics. So for this, again, the strategies for this and preparation from the government is enough. Okay, so whatever we do for this is preventing for diarrheal epidemics and immediate response, preparation for immediate response. Those things are there. If we do these 4 things we discuss in detail, these 4 are enough. Okay, so to tackle these, our government has got certain strategy. So what is the strategy? So diarrheal disease is on. Okay, so in Nepal, child survival. Is anybody asking me any questions and all? Case how? China. Okay. Okay, let me just. So in Nepal, the child survival intervention began when control of diarrheal disease program started in 1983. Not long ago, not really long ago. When we were born, this program was just started. Just imagine, it's not an old program. Globally, America and all had already controlled diarrheal disease by 1940s, 1950s. Just imagine. Okay, so we started just recently, and it was called diarrheal Control of Diarrheal Disease Program, CDD program. And then in 1997, 98, governments focused on not just diarrhea, children are dying because of respiratory disease also. So let's have another program. Instead of having a different program, they merged 2 programs. CBAC program it was called. Basically, it was a community-based program for ARI and diarrhea. So 2 things they focused. 1 year later, they added nutrition in the same component. immunization in the same program, and it was incorporated in CBSE program, same program. So it has developed. So right now, since 1999, and then 97, so since 1999, and then since 2009 nationwide, and was revised in 2004, we use community-based IMCI. Initially, as far as I remember, it was called just IMCI in Nepal. In India, it's called IMNCI. In Nepal, we call it CBIMCI, Community-Based Integrated Management of Childhood Illness. So what they did is they integrated all the common diseases of the children, commonest 5 and others as well. So integrated into one program. Then one program will look after everything. So diarrheal disease, primary problem of children. So they focused on IMCI. So IMCI looks after it. The program for IMCI, I think you all already have studied it. Basically, diarrhea is managed under IMCI protocol. Health workers classify it into 3 categories. Basically, any kind of diarrheal cases, we look for dehydration, and they classify as no dehydration, some dehydration, and severe dehydration. And on the basis of that, treatment is done. No dehydration, ORS, some dehydration, ORS, severe dehydration, hospitalization. That is what they do, and they manage it accordingly. I think I'll not go into the IMCI program that has been discussed. I think you all know. If you don't know, please review it by yourself. Okay. The national program of IMCI, I'm not going to go into detail, but I've written over there. I'll just please, I recommend you to see it by yourself. Okay. The objective and strategies for IMCI. These are important ones. IMCI is a big program, and that has to be discussed. There's nothing to teach. IMCI has already been discussed in detail. The national program you'll have to study by yourself. Okay. So this ends our session for diarrheal disease. A very lengthy session. 3 classes on diarrheal disease. So hope I made things clear. If there is any queries, please share your questions.